going to have a chat about Mars today. Like many of you, I saw that clip where Elon Musk said that colonizing Mars is like life insurance for humanity. And I think we should talk about that. Now, sure, I've seen other people do videos about this already. I'm not going to go into like major detail of explaining really complex science here. This is part of my, what I think of as my random rambling videos, pop talks is what I'm calling it for now. We'll see. So if you're new here, this is slightly different than the other videos that I tend to make where I do like science explainers. This is more just like a chance for me to just talk about something for as long as I can have the steam to do so, which can be a very long time, it turns out. But I just have a lot of thoughts about this. And this is more like a discussion, okay? Sure, it's one-sided, but you know, you can leave comments. But what I mean is like, it's not about, you know, oh, let me educate you. It's about like, let's think about this. Let's look at what we're talking about when we're talking about the concepts of colonizing Mars, or, you know, what's actually going to happen in the future for our planet, and what are the other ideas we should potentially be looking at. So I have prepped some stuff to talk about. I do have some things prepared. Don't worry, I'm not just going to go completely off on tangents, but there may be some tangents. Let's see how it goes. Now, before we get into this whole colonization of Mars, life insurance for humanity thing, I want to say one thing where this whole quest for Mars, this quest for the savior of humanity, is fascinating to me, because what you're talking about is wanting to be in the history books of saving humanity in the future, right? Because it doesn't affect us now. Our planet is good for about 1 billion years, right? So long as we take care of it. So what I actually think about this whole quest and this obsession with being able to get to Mars is more of an egotistical thing, and it is more of a selfish desire that some people want to see that happen in their lifetimes. Now, I understand why you'd want to see this happen in your lifetime, because it's a fascinating thing. It's an exciting thing. Sure, it would be like, oh my God, it would be incredible to see that, wouldn't it? I mean, I wasn't alive when people landed on the moon. I can only imagine that that must have been such a significant moment. It would be amazing to see people walking on Mars and to get more information about that, and sure. But like I said, we're good for like around 1 billion years. So if what you want is to save humanity or have a life insurance for humanity, then why would you not be trying to save humanity now? Why would you not be trying to help, aid, and support the actual human life that already exists on this planet, that is already being destroyed or going through destruction because of us? So that's just a feeling that I have. So I just want to keep that in mind when people talk about this dream for this whole colonization of Mars, for realizing it. That is because it is something that was shown to us in science fiction stories in the early 1900s. And we have seen the evolution of technology in such a way that makes it very exciting. And it would be an incredibly exciting thing to see. And it's nice to think of aspirational things and to think of positive things for the future, absolutely. But I've come to a point now where I don't think it's about pessimism, it's about realism. And the reality is that we do not need to set foot on Mars right now, but we need to ensure that we survive on this planet for the 1 billion years that we have on it. There is plenty of time in humanity's future to figure out how to get off this rock. It's not going to happen in our lifetime. And pushing to try to make it happen in our lifetime is egotistical and selfish, instead of focusing on what we actually need as the current inhabitants of this planet. That's just my feeling on it. But let's just talk about this whole concept of Mars being life insurance for humanity anyway. Because I did prepare other things to talk about, which was not that. So, first off, this whole concept of going to Mars, right? On paper, that makes sense. Mars is our nearest neighbor. So sure, why wouldn't you first try to go to like the closest planet to you? Why do we need to do this? Well, it's because eventually our sun is going to kill us. Now, I'm someone who's allergic to the sun. That is a real thing. I genuinely am allergic to the sun. So I already feel its animosity. But eventually this entire planet is going to feel its animosity. The sun is going to expand. As it progresses through life, it will grow and get larger and larger. One day it will become a red giant and it will turn Earth into a charcoal briquette. So yeah, we need a backup plan, right? We need to get off this rock. But there is a little thing with the whole Mars thing where it's kind of like saying, oh, the forest is on fire. I'll just move to this tree that's not yet on fire. It's like, okay, Mars is right there with us. You see, when the sun starts going into its supervillain phase, Mars is still in the blast zone. Now, I know that you're thinking that like, well, Mars is further away, so maybe it will actually survive. And technically, it won't actually be consumed by the sun. When the sun becomes a red giant, what will happen is it will consume Mercury, it will consume Venus, likely it's going to consume Earth, but depending on the models that we're looking at, we don't know yet whether it would actually consume Mars. Mars might escape, it might just be like outside of the zone in a slightly safe region, but that's a safe region from being like becoming a part of the sun. It'll avoid this like full incineration thing, but there's a lot of other things we need to think about. So Mars at its current distance from the sun, right? It already barely has an atmosphere. Its atmosphere is like 1%. God, I can't actually remember if it's 1% or 10%. Somebody will know the answer to that. But it's like 1%, 10%. I can't fully remember the number right now for some reason. I have a little brain block. Anyway, what matters is that it has a very, very thin atmosphere in comparison to the Earth. Now, the second thing about Mars is that it doesn't have a magnetic field the way that Earth does. So we have what's called a dynamo. The way that the core of our planet rotates and moves, it creates this magnetic field, and the magnetic field around Earth protects us from solar flares from the sun. Mars doesn't have that. So it already has an incredibly thin atmosphere and it doesn't have a dynamo to generate a magnetic field to protect it. So as the sun grows, that atmosphere that it does have will get completely stripped away. So it's going to have no air, no oceans, no shielding from radiation. So if we move to Mars, we're basically like squatting on a dry rock, slowly cooking under the death glow of a dying star. That's the life insurance we're talking about. It doesn't sound too good to me. I don't know how you feel. Now, that's fine. That's what we know will happen in the future, right? Or a good idea or a good approximation of what's going to happen in the future. Now, you might be thinking, and you'd be slightly correct in thinking this, but how much longer would we have if we went to Mars? We go there, sure. The Earth is destroyed. We figure out a way to build domes and habitats, and we grow potatoes, and we become Mark Watneys on Mars. How long will we actually have there before we're burnt potatoes? So the general numbers that you will get is that our Earth will be destroyed by the sun in about 5 billion years, but we don't have that much time. We have about 1 to 1.5 billion years. The sun's radiation will increase so much that it will boil off our oceans around about then. It'll also like completely get rid of our atmosphere. The surface will be like so hot that we can't survive on the planet. And Mars will last longer than the Earth for sure, but maybe like a few 100 million years, which sounds like a lot, right? 100 million years. Yes, that sounds like a huge amount of time. But when we look at cosmic terms, It's like the difference between dying at 30 versus dying at 32. Sure, you get 2 extra years, but you're not making it to retirement. So Mars isn't really life insurance, it's just like a slightly better waiting room. But I hear you. Okay, fine. If not Mars, Abby, where are we gonna go then? What's your solution? Well, Mars buys humanity like an extra bit of time. If we're lucky, if we can figure out how to survive on a planet like Mars, keeping in mind that it is close to the sun like we are, and it already doesn't have any of the things that we would need on it. And as the sun expands, it's not going to grow those things. It's only going to get worse over there. So it's not the forever home that humanity needs. If we really want life insurance for humanity, we're going to have to go further. We're going to have to go all the way out to that Kuiper belt out there. The icy wasteland where all the frozen rocks are and the tiny worlds that nobody's cared about until now. This is the future we're looking for. Pluto, Eris, Make. Still one of the greatest names ever given to an object in space. I don't know why. Make. I love it. Make. Distracted. Anyway. These are frozen objects that are far enough from the sun right now that when it does become a red giant, they will actually start to warm up. The temperatures that right now are like hundreds of degrees below freezing, they could get warm enough for oceans to exist. Pluto, you guys, Pluto will become our beachfront property. That's the way to escape the dying Earth. Buy your very own icy paradise today. Limited time offer before the sun explodes. That's the future. That's your retirement home. But the retirement home is going to be for your ancestors billions of years down the track. If we survive, which I don't think we will. But anyway, colonizing Pluto. Obviously, that's not just like the hard level or you know, getting the final boss on a game. It's nightmare scales of requirements. It's not even just science fiction adaptation. It's stuff we can't even think about right now. Problems with Pluto are things like the gravity is lower. The radiation is, of course, extreme over there. They don't have an atmosphere. So I know, I hear you. You're saying, Abby, that's a lot of the problems that you said were an issue with Mars. And it's like, yeah, sure. But in the future, the distance for Pluto is just much better for us than Mars. So in a similar vein, we need technology, we need infrastructure way beyond anything that we have today and way beyond anything that we are capable of making with what we currently know and understand. But if we are serious about surviving past the death of the Earth, that's where we need to be thinking. And that, of course, is a much bigger dream than just building a habitat on Mars. Okay, so we get 1 billion years on Earth. Then we hop over to Mars, we get an extra couple of 100 million years. Then we need to hop to Pluto. What happens next? Life on Pluto is maybe colder than it is here. We've got some oceans under the ice. We've got some maybe domed cities, some food grown in underground bio... oh my god, what are they called? Why can't I think of what it's called? Hydropods? The name's gonna like flash through into my brain at some point and I'm gonna be like, oh my god, it was that thing. Hydroponics. Bloody hell. Hydroponics. Right, so humanity is still alive. That's where we're at. Earth to Mars to Pluto. We figured out a way, imagine it. But, come on guys, even Pluto's just buying time, right? The sun's death isn't just like about its expansion. Because after the red giant phase, it's then going to shed its outer layers pretty violently. And what will be left is a white dwarf. And when that happens, there is no more light. There is no more heat. There is just a dense, slowly cooling ember floating through space, which means eventually Pluto freezes solid again. So, if we want real life insurance, we have to leave the solar system. We have to become an interstellar species. We need to up our game on the Kardashev scale. The thing is, we're kind of barely even on it already. We're not even what we would technically call a full type 1 civilization. Now, if you haven't heard of it, the Kardashev scale is it's a way of like classifying how advanced a civilization is based on the amount of energy it can use. So a type 1 civilization would be the type that would harness all of the energy available on its home planet. Then a type 2 civilization harnesses all of the energy of its home star, and a type 3 harnesses the energy of its entire galaxy. We're currently around about a 0.7 on that scale, or not even a full number 1 yet. Moving up the Kardashev scale, it's not just a, thing to do. It's not just like, oh, this is a cool thing. It's about survival. It's a requirement if we want to survive long term. But how are we supposed to make it to a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale when we can't even agree that climate change is real? We slash science funding, we undermine expertise, and we reward outrage over innovation. I have talked about this time and time again. We're arguing about whether climate change is real while we let billionaires play space cowboy while basic infrastructure crumbles. And we expect this species to be able to build a Dyson sphere. We've reached a point where we can't even agree what a fact is half the time. So this is bigger than just political arguments or internet trolls. Progress needs 3 things, right? It needs curiosity, it needs cooperation, and it needs commitment. The problem is right now we're kind of running pretty low on all 3 when it comes to science. So becoming a type 1 civilization isn't just about developing cool technology or anything like that. It's about needing global cooperation. It's about needing to value expertise, about investing in long-term projects that won't pay off for centuries. It's about building a world where science isn't a luxury, it's the foundation. And if we don't change that, well, moving to Mars or, building cities on Pluto just won't matter. Because we're just going to carry the same problems with us no matter where we go, a little further out into the void. And that's what I mean when I say that going to Mars right now is a vanity project, because it's not what humanity needs. It doesn't solve any of the issues that we have. It doesn't increase our abilities as humans to survive on the planet that we have right now. Now, I will say that I do think that trying to develop the technology to be able to survive in space, to be able to build a habitat on Mars, to do all these kinds of things is all advancing science. And when we do those types of advancements, even if we don't see the point, it always feeds through into the society that we have and to the technology that we have and everything on an everyday basis. But you can also get that progress somewhere else using projects that are closer to home and that are better for our current existence on Earth, figuring out how to build a habitat on Mars, great. How about figuring out how to ensure better, agriculture? If you have to figure out how to build a habitat on Mars, you have to figure out how to grow crops. You have to figure out how to feed people, right? So how about you figure out how to feed people on Earth? How about you figure out how to help farmers survive? How to develop better technology for our extreme conditions that are happening on the planet as the temperature of the planet is changing and we're getting more forest fires. You know, like technology to stop forest fires, like technology to build a better space station in orbit to improve the ISS in the future so that we can continue to look both at the Earth and out into space. There's so many things that we need. And all of those things that I've just said are also like mostly luxuries as well. You know, aside from the helping stop forest fires, that would be quite beneficial to many, many people around the world. But it's just vanity. It's just, you know, it's like, oh, just so that you can be the one to say, I went to Mars because of what? So that in the future, when you're long dead, people will remember your name. Who cares? You're not going to be alive to see it. So why does that matter to you more than ensuring that humanity actually survives to that future? Because you're not doing anything to ensure that they get there if you're overly focused on vanity projects. Which, yeah, okay. I'm tangenting off track, so I'm gonna come back. Because the thing is, like I said, I do see the value in certain aspects to research specifically for space exploration because I know how it trickles down into what we do in our lives. I think I just have an aversion towards that being the only focus. And also when it's someone's focus because you know it's about their own ego and it's not actually about like wanting humanity to survive. But I do still think that we will, of course, like, I hope we'll get there. I do. I hope that we will eventually make it to that point where we can put all of our differences aside, where we can have a global incentive and a global cooperation when it's really needed, and that we can find ways to survive through the end of days. The problem is it's not inevitable. It's not like progress doesn't just happen because it's like supposed to happen. It happens because people choose to make it happen. And the future isn't guaranteed. It's a race between like collapses in society versus breakthroughs, between chaos and community. It's going to take a hell of a lot more than just dreaming about Mars to ever get there. It's going to take investment into science, understanding, and the pursuit of knowledgement and the dissemination of information. And right now, we are like anti all of that. We're not even like, we are struggling as science communicators to reach people. Misinformation is more rampant than it has ever been. Science funding is being completely cut. Space exploration funding is being completely cut. So I just don't understand why anyone is like, oh yeah, but the dream is that'll be a hopeful, promising thing to look forward to. It's like, no, it's a distraction tactic. It's a distraction tactic to keep you focused on something shiny while they do all this other stuff. And if you think that in 100 years, humanity is going to have this like scientific, you know, space futuristic world of technology around us without supporting science today, I really don't know what to say to people. It's, again, tangenting, coming back. We need to leave the solar system. Okay, we've gone to Earth. We've gone from Earth to Mars, we've gone from Mars to Pluto, and we've realized, look, we need to get out of the solar system. The question is, where would we even go? Because, right, we somehow survive. We survive everything. We figured out how to build all of our cities. We know how to utilize what's in our solar system. We don't vaporize ourselves doing a stupid TikTok challenge. What happens next? We have to figure out a way to become interstellar travelers. Now, the reality is, no matter what, and I don't want to go into science fiction realms here where people are going to argue with me, we cannot travel faster than the speed of light. So even to get to our nearest neighbor, which is Proxima Centauri, that's like 4.24 light years away, we will need generational ships. Given, like, if we take the speed of Voyager right now, I think it's something about 70,000 years to get from Earth to Proxima Centauri at the speed that we can currently travel at. Now, if we imagine that humanity in like 1 billion years has figured out a way to accelerate mass close to the speed of light, and we could, you know, get there in a shorter amount of years, then great, but it's unlikely that we would ever get very close to the speed of light. So you're not really going to have like a 4-year trip. You're still going to have generations of time in space in like a tin can. Multiple generations living and dying inside ships, hoping to reach a place that we don't even know would have a habitable region. This is the thing. Like, Proxima Centauri is the closest star, but like we don't really know what's out there. We don't have the technology right now. We can look at exoplanets. We can capture some information about like their locations, whether they're likely to have water. We can get some information about some of their atmospheric content, what types of molecules are in their atmosphere. So it gives us like kind of good ideas, and hopefully that technology will progress in the future and we'll be able to get better images and better understanding of places. But like, as to finding an actual habitable planet somewhere else, that's going to take a lot of technological development. And then we travel out, we have generational ships, we have whole civilizations born, living and dying on their route to a new star. Now, we could potentially talk about cracking cryogenic stasis. This is something that we see in movies a lot, of course. We've got the idea of being able to kind of freeze the body and then reanimate at a later time period. That's the only way we could potentially get around generational ships. And the whole cryostasis thing it's one of those things where it's kind of like, maybe, you know, maybe not, maybe. The problem right now with what we understand of it is that there's actually no way to reanimate. You freeze a body, there's no way to thaw that body, basically, because the freezing process damages and destroys all of the cells, right? So if you could have medical advancements that would allow this to happen, and I did read a few years ago about some trials that were being done where they were cooling people's bodies down to close to freezing for surgeries, but this was only being done on patients who did not have any chance of survival, like emergency situations where someone was absolutely going to die, but this was just a method to, let's see if we can get more time, and the more time is more time for the surgeons to be able to operate on the person before you kind of warm the person back up again. So there is like investigations going on into the concept of cryo, but that's the only thing that I can think of, right? I don't personally have any feeling that faster than light travel is something that will happen in the future. Not anywhere in the near future anyway. I'm not going to make a statement on what it'll be like in 1 billion years because I can't comprehend how science and technology would evolve. We'll never get there if we don't evolve science and technology today, so we do need to do that. But I do think that the most likely method of long-term space travel, without it having to be completely generational ships, would be cryogenic stasis, long-term stasis, which I think would be an incredibly cool thing to develop a method of doing. I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of it. We could all go to the future if we did that. So that's the real solution for the future of humanity. It's not just like going to Mars, going to Pluto, hanging out in the solar system forever. If humanity actually is going to survive long term, the only way is to get out of our solar system. So basically getting out of the solar system it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's not something that we couldn't do. I'm just saying that it's not like a technology problem. It's more to do with there's physics that we need to expand on and learn and understand, but it's also a civilization issue. We have to invest in science, we have to invest in each other, and we have to invest in real long-term thinking, not just like Mars as a backup plan. It's just another like short stop on a road to nowhere in reality. Look, I know the timescales I'm talking about are massive, and I know that there's going to be people who are going to say, but Mars is like a first stop, and you need to figure that out before you figure out other things. But again, focusing on something that it would be required by humanity a billion years from now, while ignoring all of the things that are required by humanity today, is meaningless. Like, it's completely pointless. So what does human survival really take? The thing that people don't talk about, people talk about like moving to Mars, going out, colonizing the solar system, doing all this stuff. There is a problem about resources, because we do not have unlimited stuff. Mars isn't like a magical backup Earth. Pluto isn't just waiting for us to show up and start farming potatoes. If we're serious about survival in the long term, and I'm talking in the billions of years scale long term, we have to think about resources. And when you look at the numbers for like what's required, it gets bleak pretty fast. Oxygen is actually precious. Water is actually scarce, and it's locked under miles of ice or trapped in rocks around the solar system. Building materials you can get from mining asteroids, but you're basically strip mining the solar system to keep a tiny population alive, no matter what you do. And then the energy requirements at the end of the day is that you're either hugely dependent on solar energy, and the solar energy gets weaker the further you go out, or you're hoping to master fusion in a way that we just haven't done yet. But every single thing that we take for granted here on Earth, things like air, water, food, gravity, warmth, you would have to manufacture it from scratch out in space forever. And like I said, the sun itself is a clock that is ticking down. So even if you somehow manage to work around, make it to Pluto, to the Kuiper Belt, some station orbiting Neptune, eventually you will have to leave and you will have to do interstellar. And to do that, we need massive amounts of energy and raw materials that are way beyond what we can scrape up with rockets and shovels right now. So if hopping to Mars isn't a long-term solution and surviving in our solar system requires more than just like moving houses, what will it actually take for humanity to survive? Firstly, we would need massive global cooperation on a level we have never seen before. We would need long-term thinking beyond election cycles or like quarterly profits. We need education systems that genuinely value scientific literacy and critical thinking. And we need a culture that celebrates careful progress, not just flashy disruption. Basically, humanity would need to level up socially and intellectually, not just technologically. And when it comes to the actual technology, we need breakthroughs that aren't just about making toys for rich people. You see, it's not enough to invent faster rockets or smarter AIs. We need sustainable, scalable technologies, closed-loop life support systems, efficient resource recycling, energy systems that can survive outside Earth's environment, materials that can withstand extreme conditions for centuries. These can't just be like billionaire passion projects or vanity projects. They have to be accessible, they have to be practical, they have to be designed for survival, not for PR. And even beyond that, we then have to think about the psychological resilience that we would need. Living in a dome on Mars or an underground ocean habitat near Europa. If you can't go outside without a spacesuit, there's no fresh air, there's no rain, there's no trees. We're not just asking humans to survive physically, we're asking humans to survive psychologically, through isolation, through confinement, the constant knowledge that if the life support fails, then like that's it. We need to completely rethink how we approach mental health, how we approach community, how we approach purpose, how we help people thrive in environments designed to keep them alive, but not necessarily to make them feel like they're alive. And the hardest one of all is that we'd have to redefine what our concept is of home. Earth has been our little cradle, our little protector for billions of years. Life has evolved and grown and established, and we are here today having this conversation, watching a video on YouTube of a physicist randomly bug out about Mars and evolution and life and space exploration and things. And we do all of that because of the habitat that Earth created that allowed our biology to exist and allowed our cultures to evolve. If we want to think about where we want humanity to go in the future, in the long term, then, you know, being fascinated with just the concept of building rockets is a very limiting thought and imagination to have about it, because it's not just about building the ships that go boom fast. It's about building the kind of civilization that is connected, that is intelligent, wise, that isn't about racing to the stars, but is about understanding the journey that is required for us to get there. And I don't think that we are there. I don't think we are those people. We don't care enough about each other to be a civilization that is able to survive in the harshness of space, where we will depend on each other. Anyway, that's gotten kind of dark. And like I said, look, this is one of my ramble videos. My thoughts are slightly all over the place. I do apologize if they are a bit incoherent at times. It's not intentional. I do think I've also repeated stuff a bit, but look, we'll see. We'll see how it goes with the editing this. But what I did want to talk about, what I did have kind of lined up in my points list is alternatives. What are the alternatives to planet hopping? Okay, so if we forget about interstellar travel for now, right? Because even if we become an interstellar species, look, ultimately there is an end. Okay, a great exploration through that, not to spoil anything, is if you read Cixin Liu's original 3-body trilogy series, and where that all kind of goes throughout the story, is that exploration towards the end. And that's just like a scientific fact, you know? Like I said, there is a scientific fact that there is an end to the Earth, right? That's something that we all accept and we all understand. It's also a scientific fact that there is an end to our solar system. There's a scientific fact that there is an end to maybe to our galaxy. Well, Andromeda is going to collide with it at some point in the future, and we don't know what kind of destruction that is going to cause, and we don't know how that is all going to play out in terms of what the structure of the galaxy will be like after that merger happens. So we can talk about needing to become an interstellar species, then needing to become an intergalactic species, but we also know that everything, you know, all the space is expanding faster than the speed of light, so galaxies are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. So even if that happened, you know, like, could we even make it to another galaxy? Probably not. And then also you have the ultimate end of the universe anyway. So we can think about these things on these scales, but that's why I think it's foolish to overly think about Mars right now, because it's like, well, you know, ultimately humanity is going to die out at some point. The question is, what is that point going to be? And what we should be focusing on, all of our energy and our knowledge and our understanding of science should be focusing on doing everything that we can do today to make sure that we don't die out tomorrow. That should be our main goal. And part of that is when we are confident that we are currently surviving and we can currently survive long term in the circumstances that we have right now, then we can start developing ideas and technology about what to do next. And so what are the other alternatives? If Mars just isn't it, what else do we do? So our only options really are we figure out how to survive on different planets, tiny rocks out at the edge of the solar system until our sun dies. We probably won't do that. Or we level up. Option number one, we build megastructures. People get really upset with me when I talk about Dyson spheres because they really just don't see them as being feasible, which is ridiculous to me because, I mean, we already have satellites orbiting Earth that use solar power, and we already have a space station using solar power, and we already know that solar power is the future. So giant structures around a star that capture its energy output makes perfect sense. I think the problem is I think people imagine it as a circle that completely encloses a star, but it's not. A Dyson sphere is not feasible because we don't have enough material for it, but Dyson swarms are feasible. And that's just basically putting more objects in the orbital path that the Earth is in, where you have habitats and you are harnessing solar energy in a more efficient way because you get a lot more solar power in space than we get through the atmosphere. And that is basically the full conversion of solar light into usable energy. If we have many solar panels in the planetary orbit, then we have a lot of habitats that we can create for humanity to survive. We're nowhere near building anything like that right now, of course. It's very ambitious. The energy, the materials, the logistics of all, it's beyond anything that we can do right now. But if we want humanity to survive beyond the death of the sun, we either figure it out or we don't. I'm starting to realize that I actually talked about the Dyson swarms as having habitats, so I've combined my two topics. One was, when I was thinking about this, one I was thinking about was like being on a planet and having solar panels in space and harnessing the energy back to the planet and having that as your surviving. And then the secondary thing is having habitats in space so you don't have to be on the planet. And I just got that all a little bit confused there. I'm sorry about that. Whew. I've been talking for a very long time. I have no idea if you're still with me. I'm just gonna keep going, you guys. Listen, it's fine, it's fine. Anyway, I want to talk about habitats in space. So things like O'Neill cylinders, which people also like to kind of bring up Niven rings a lot. So I'm not really talking about like a major ring structure. O'Neill cylinders are like segmented structures. There are a few other names of things out there as well. I think there's something like Bernal spheres or something like that. But basically they're all self-contained ecosystems floating in an orbit. So a city in space that generates artificial gravity by spinning, it's powered by captured solar energy, protected by thick layers of shielding, moving slowly outwards as the solar system becomes less and less habitable. So you could like be orbiting the sun and then the orbital path just increases as the sun is increasing. So, you know, you're kind of following that track. So like that might actually be a smarter idea than Mars because it gives us the technology of not having to be reliant on the planet if we can't find a planet that we could survive on. Because even if we were to go on to Mars, we would still actually have to build habitats to survive on the planet anyway, right? It's not like Mars is just another Earth and we just hop on it and everything's there. And even if we go exploring outside looking for another Earth outside of our solar system, hi puppy, we may not find another planet that will work for us. So eventually, the concept of being tied to a planet actually probably isn't going to work for humanity. If we can build habitats that are modular, that can move around, can adapt, that can rebuild themselves, then we're not dependent on any one rock out there to survive. We are nomads, roaming the stars forever. Some people might say it's not as romantic as terraforming Mars. I disagree. I think it's more romantic. It's definitely not as like flashy as launching like a colony ship, but it's practical, it's adaptable, it's scalable. It makes the most sense to me. So instead of trying to figure out how to get humans to Mars and to survive on Mars, I would be focusing on how to build a better space station around Earth, where you can, like, I mean, we know we can already do it. The ISS is up there, right? Astronauts survive on the ISS for months at a time on their missions. It's been in operation for a long time. So figure out how to build a bigger one slightly further out. That would be a great first step. They're not going to do that though, are they? Look, the next question though really is like, can we even level up, right? Because this is a lot of talk about like humanity's future, about the concept of interstellar travel, Dyson spheres, building civilizations in space, colonizing other planets. I mentioned the Kardashev scale earlier, and about how like in order for us to evolve, we have to become like a type 1 civilization, which is where you harness all of the energy on your planet. In order to do that, you have to invest in scientific ideas and scientific progress. And like right now, we can't even get people to vaccinate their children. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you really look at people's interaction with science and how they react to it, like a lot of people don't believe in science anymore. They don't trust the experts. They think every new idea is part of like a hidden agenda. So how do we go from that to like building habitats in space? Progress takes like trust in science and in each other, in the systems, in the idea, and the truth matters. But like a lot of people don't have trust right now. Now, I'm not trying to be like doom and gloom. I know I must come across as this a lot at the moment, but it's just a lot of how I feel. Because I find it fascinating how people are so against science and so uninterested in scientific progress and wanting to slash everything and thinking science is such a big waste. But then Elon Musk comes out and he's like, oh, we have to go to Mars because it's the future of humanity. And everyone's like, oh yeah, let's do that. Or look at Musk's Optimus robots. It's like, how do you think these things are created? Through science. You can't have innovation in science if you don't have new developments and understanding in the fundamentals of science. And that's what research does. Like, you need to research. It's a contradiction. We're imagining a future where humanity is like a hyper advanced species, but we don't support the things that would make that future possible. Science education is underfunded. Like I said, research budgets are being cut. We know this is happening. I mean, mostly talking about the US right now, but scientists are leaving academia because also it's not exactly the best place to be at times. It's not very well paid, yet you get accused constantly of being, I get accused constantly of being a paid shill, and I'm just laughing here with my PhD salary of £17,000 a year. And in the meantime then as well, the discourse around all of this, the way people talk about science in the media, online and interact is just so toxic right now. So how are we supposed to like unlock the secrets of the universe when you have actual viral videos of people arguing that the Earth is flat? Now, let's be real. Like, okay, it's sounding very negative, but the progress we have made as humanity is amazing. We have pulled off incredible things. We have developed vaccines. Yes, there are people that don't believe in them, but they're just people who don't understand the science and are being spoon-fed information by people who it's in their interests to spread disinformation. Vaccines are incredible things. It's an incredible progress and advancement in medicine. Relativity, the moon landing, the LHC, JWST, all incredible feats of engineering and physics and progress for humanity that has given us so much access to the technology that we currently use today and that like governs and kind of manages our lives. So the science isn't the problem here. Becoming a spacefaring species isn't about not having the capacity to do that or having the information that we need to help us keep going on that path. It's about us wanting it more than we want to argue with each other. Civilizations don't rise up to a type 1 by accident. I say that as if there's other civilizations out there. We don't know. But you're not going to accidentally get there. You're not going to do it by yelling at each other in the comment section. You're going to need cooperation, trust in knowledge, investing in science, in infrastructure, in long-term thinking over short-term profit. And that's the problem. Like I said, we're running on distraction. We treat curiosity like it's a bit cringe or it's uninteresting. But the thing is, the universe isn't going to wait for our act to get together. The sun will still become a red giant. The atmosphere will still vanish. The long-term clock is still ticking. Humanity's survival isn't just a side project that people are like struggling to try to get funding for while the corporations are out there saying, we don't care so long as we meet our goals this quarter. This constant obsession with growth. We need more subscribers. We need more consumers. We need more. While at the same time, we're running out of actual resources that will keep us alive. So like I said, we have about 1 billion years on this planet. We don't need to run off to Mars. We can just stay on Earth and decide that we will fight to survive for the time that we have here while we figure out what to do elsewhere. That's probably the best choice. Leave the concept of going to Mars to people in the future. Figure out instead how we can survive here now. So do we have enough resources on Earth to sustain a high-tech civilization? Can we recycle materials at a large scale? Can we develop energy sources that won't run dry? Because if we can't do all of that, there's so many things that we're up against. We're up against scarcity. We're up against entropy, you guys. We're already burning through all of the easy stuff that we have. We've already mined the most accessible rare earth metals. We're burning through fossil fuels and we're fighting over water. Even silicon, the thing that powers all of our technology, it's abundant, but refining it at the purity levels that we need for semiconductors is hard and it's energy intensive. At some point, it's not about positivity or fighting over resources. At some point, there just are no resources left. So, life, love, L-O-V-E, love. Okay, distracted. Life on Earth, right? Okay, life has survived a lot on our planet. Ice ages, meteor strikes, mass extinctions, empires falling, pandemics. Every time, against all of the odds, we've still managed to make it a little bit further, right? But survival doesn't just happen. And Mars isn't like a magic reset button. Escaping to Mars isn't a cheat code for life. It's not a place that we run to when we've trashed the Earth. Mars will be brutal, unforgiving. Terraforming it, if that was even possible, would take thousands of years. Living there would require constant technology, constant maintenance, constant vigilance. It's not a backup. It's survival. It's what's that SAS Survivor? It's not just going on a camping trip, it's Bear Grylls in the middle of the jungle. In order to get there, the work has to start here now in terms of actually looking at what we know and understand and appreciating what we already have access to. It doesn't start by looking at Mars. Again, I agree with the validity of what we learn from looking at big projects to the future. We learned a lot, and we got a lot of information from, you know, the space shuttle program, from building CERN, from trying to develop fusion reactors. We learn a lot, we gain a lot of information, but we also gain a lot of advanced technology that comes into our lives and into our world around us. The problem is saying you're going to focus on trying to get to Mars when you're not interested in funding science. Saying you want to develop a way to live on another planet when you're not interested in protecting the only habitable world we currently have. Saying you want to figure out how to sustain life on another planet when you aren't interested in building sustainable technologies on Earth. And saying you want to develop this, or saying you believe in or aspire to this future where we all live in cooperation on habitats on Mars, when there's no investment in cooperation on Earth right now, but there is drive for division. You see, the thing is, and this comes back to what I said at the beginning, when I said about it being a vanity project, when I said about it just being unnecessary, is because the reality is we're not at the end of humanity's story. We're not in a movie where we have to do this in order to survive. We're still in like the prologue of the book, guys. The civilizations that we are imagining, the ones that will exist 1 billion years from now, if humanity still survives, they could be us, we could get there, but we can only get that far if we can make it through the world that we live in today. Survival isn't a side quest. It's the main story. It's the reason that we dream. It's the reason that we explore. It's the reason that we reach beyond what we think we're capable of. We don't get another shot at doing this. Lolly agrees. You agree? You agree? You want to go to Mars? Mars, the stars, the galaxy, they're all like challenges that are out there. They are waiting for humanity to get there. The universe is going to survive much longer than we are, for sure. It's her little meerkat pose. Meerkat. Okay, I'm ending the video. I think I have to end the video. I've talked a lot. God, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you made it to the end, of this video, you're a champion. This is ridiculous. Even Lolly's like fed up with me. But yeah, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think about, all right. I want to know what you think about this. I want to know if you are an optimist. Do you consider yourself a pessimist? I think I'm a realist. So, like, are you in my camp when looking at the future of humanity? If you could pick one place in the solar system to colonize, where would you go first? I don't think I'd go to Mars. I think I'd go further out. But that's me. Like I said, I've said a lot as well. I didn't mean to do that so much. I really am trying to stop saying that. God, I hope I haven't drawn your attention to it and now you're going to not be able to unhear it. Like I said, this is just part of my ramble videos. I haven't done a full ramble one in a little while, so I do apologize for anything that didn't make any sense. Or if it was just too long and too boring and too dull. Stuff happens. Now I won't be able to unhear. You're not going to be able to unhear it now. Hopefully it's at the end of the video and you won't go back, so you won't be able to count them all. Okay, I will stop talking now. The dog is staring at me. I think she wants me to go play, so that sounds like a good shout. Because at the end of the day, we got to foster the life that we got living here, and I got the best damn dog in the world who needs some love and attention right now. So I'm gonna go do that. Thank you for hanging out with me. Again, sorry for the rambliness of this discussion. If you didn't hate this video, I do have others, and you could suggest some topics that you might find interesting. I kind of just go with what's on my mind at the time, or what I'm thinking of, or what I'm feeling like. But next week I will be back to more regular scheduled programming. We have a new episode of Gambin's Run, which is finally doing the TARDIS, so that's coming soon. And a few other things as well coming up on the Science Explainers videos, so you can check them out if you're interested. And on Patreon, we're currently doing a series on Alien, or the Alien series. I'm doing them in chronological order, just like my comments and reviews on thoughts on each of the plots of the Alien, and then at the end there'll be one big video all about the science of, or the science story told through the Alien shows. Or the Alien shows, what? The Alien movies. God, I've been talking for so long, I've managed to exhaust myself. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna stop now. Thanks. See you guys, bye.